What caused the Salem witch trials? A good place to start in beginning to learn about the Salem witch trials is to recognise that there is no single, all-encompassing explanation as to how or why they happened. Identifying the cause or causes of the Salem witch trials involves thinking about a range of different factors. Why were these allegations considered legitimate or believable at the time? What social function or even benefit was there to gain from convicting witches? And why was witchcraft seen as an issue in the first place? A good place to start is in looking at the social dynamics of a witch hunt. The Salem Witch Museum provides a formula in helping to understand this. The formula is fear plus trigger equals scapegoat. Fear. Pre-existing fears and concerns that underpin the witch hunt. Trigger. A particular event or occurrence that appears to validate these fears. And scapegoat. An individual or group who are then unfairly or irrationally blamed for this. This video will explore the underlying fears and the initial trigger that led to the start of the Salem witch trials. Settlers had arrived in Salem in 1626 with the goal of creating a godly, moral society, a city upon a hill. Many of these early settlers were Puritans, who followed a strict lifestyle that emphasised dedication to duties and obedience to the family and church. Colonists were expected to attend church weekly, and sermons often discussed the dangers of the devil and his human followers, who could be hiding in plain sight in the local community. At the time leading up to the trials, however, there had been brewing concerns that Salem was witnessing a decline in commitment to these Puritan values. For years, the colony had also been engaged in ongoing wars with the indigenous tribes of the area, resulting in the deaths of thousands. Salem had become a refuge for many who had fled the north in order to escape the most intense conflicts. In addition to the casualties that they resulted in, these wars were also extremely expensive, impacting an economy that had already been hit hard by crop failures and drought. Frictions had also developed between Salem town and the neighbouring Salem village over the decades leading up to the trials. Salem village sought to separate itself from Salem town. One of the first steps that it took towards achieving this was in developing its own church. However, this was not a straightforward process, and there were a lot of disagreements about who should become the minister of this church. The fourth minister to take on the role was a man called Samuel Parris, who had then become a highly controversial and fairly unpopular figure in Salem village. Today, Salem town is what we know as the modern city of Salem, whereas Salem village is now the town of Danvers. Disease was also a common and deadly reality of colonial Salem. New England had experienced widespread smallpox outbreaks in both 1677 and 1689. Due to this, fears of mysterious diseases and of outsiders bringing in these diseases were present amongst the community. This became apparent in the conviction of Martha Carrier, one of the women executed for witchcraft during the trials. Her family had brought smallpox over to Andover in 1690, which likely contributed to the accusations that were later brought against her. Clearly then, there were already a number of community tensions, concerns and fears leading up to the onset of the Salem witch trials in 1692. The behaviours and allegations of the afflicted then acted as a trigger for these fears. The afflicted was the name given for individuals who appeared to be tormented by witches in the community. They would display a range of unusual symptoms, such as making strange sounds and abnormal movements, or declaring that they had witnessed ghostly figures attacking them. They would also directly name and accuse other individuals in the community of having bewitched them. These symptoms first appeared with Betty Parris, Samuel Parris's own daughter, and her cousin Abigail Williams, who was living within the Parris household. Ultimately, these accusations appeared to confirm local superstitions that witches were hiding in plain sight across Salem. Given the existing divisions within the community, it's perhaps no surprise that many of those initially charged with allegations of witchcraft were those already considered in some way to be outsiders. One of the first to be accused of witchcraft in Salem was Tituba, an enslaved woman within the Parris household. Another, Sarah Good, was a poor transient woman known for being argumentative and outspoken. And Sarah Osborne, a sickly woman who had not been able to attend church recently due to her illness and was also the existing subject of scandal and gossip within the local community. Witch hunts and moral panics are extremely complicated, and they are not simply a thing of the past. What we can see happening at the start of the Salem witch trials is behaviour that we can also observe happening today. At times where we feel very afraid, uncertain, or threatened, we may naturally look for somebody else to blame. This makes us feel that we have control, or that we have found some kind of solution for our fears. This is the behaviour that drives a witch hunt. Understanding the factors that led to the Salem witch trials is important in helping us understand why they happened, and perhaps it can also help us in preventing future witch hunts from occurring.